This is Wholesaling Houses Elite, the no fluff and BS podcast with tips and tricks to help you become an elite wholesaler. Our guest will spill the beans on what it takes to be the best.
All right, Elite members, it's Maxwell here with Wholesaling Elite Podcast, and we're also doing video. Can you believe that? Welcome to the show, Brian Iregbu, and you're out of Texas, right?
In Texas, man, the dirty South.
The dirty South. I don't 100% agree with that being the dirty South. But what part of Texas are you in, brother?
Man, I'm in Southeast Texas, so like Jefferson County. We're probably like 45 minutes, an hour from the border, Louisiana. Okay.
So yeah. The reason why I wanted to bring you onto this podcast and introduce you to the elite members is because you came to my attention because you work a full-time job, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So you work 50 hours a week, right?
Yeah.
And the story is you made over six figures last year in this business and had a full-time job.
Yeah, I think I made more than I did at my job last year.
So you made more on your part-time job than you did on your full-time job. And I think that's amazing because you know I run that Facebook group, Wholesaling Houses Elite, and there's a lot of people in there striving and becoming wholesalers, but I hear, can I do this with my full-time job? Can I do this and still maintain my full-time job? And you're a testament to that. And I kind of want to dive deep into what you have been doing, what you've done last year and what you're doing now to kind of see and tell people what you've been doing so they can maybe, copy that and probably be successful themselves. So kind of give people a little bit of background about you. And here's the thing, guys, people watching this and listen to this on iTunes and other places. I don't want this to be like a formal podcast. I don't want this to be an interview. I kind of want you guys to be a fly on the room when I'm talking to Brian and all my other guests, because I really want this to be a real conversation. And obviously this podcast is about wholesaling and real estate investing. And I think it's better. I think I'm going to gear it more towards us just having a conversation, because a lot of the questions I'm asking you, I have no notes in front of me, guys. This is real. I'm learning things about him as you're learning, and I'm just going to have a regular conversation like I would if you guys weren't watching or listening to this podcast. So Brian, tell them a little bit about yourself and let's get rolling.
Man, real quick, I started, the normal way. Everybody went to college, got a degree. I started teaching high school biology, like high school science. Mm-hmm. I was super stressed, so stressed. And I was like, first of all, this is stressful, too stressful. I'm working too hard and I don't make enough money. I started working in another industry, full-time job, better money. But I was like, man, I just want to make some more money. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, at that time I had a good job that I liked. I liked the job, but I was like, man, I really just want more money. So when I got into real estate, it wasn't so much, hey, I'm using real estate to quit my job. Mm-hmm. I just wanted some money on the side. I was like, I need a little, extra income. So that's how I started. But as time went on, then it started transitioning to like, wait up, this is my path out the rat race. Let me go all in, So that's kind of how I started. And so that transition of me thinking like that really just happened like a year and a half ago. Before that, to be honest, Max, I really was just like, let me just make an extra $20,000, $30,000 extra. That's cool.
But what made you think from going the complete traditional route? I mean, you went to college, you got a degree.
Great question.
What flipped your brain to say, well, I mean, even if you're thinking of, hey, let me go make some extra money, what made you think real estate?
Real estate. Bro, check this out. So on the computer, Googling, YouTubing, you see a lot of stuff that's genuine. You see a lot of stuff that look, if you have a bank account, you can make this much money, and a lot of stuff that seems so scammy, and you could just kind of sniff the BS, Mm-hmm. But I noticed everything came back to real estate. If the people didn't get rich through real estate, they got rich in another field, and then they parked the money in real estate. So real estate was like the cornerstone to like all wealth. maybe they didn't get there in real estate. They did it in some tech company or some company going, launch, launch. But after they made the money, guess what they did? They bought real estate.
Put it in real estate, yeah.
Yeah. And so
I think that's like Oprah said she made her money in broadcasting, but became wealthy in real estate. It's a difference, right?
That's why I chose real estate. And another thing, I mean, it's attractive. It's sexy, big checks, So like, if I go and sell iPhone cases and I profit $3 per unit, that's cool. I need large volume, but when you see people making $25,000, $30,000 checks, you be like, hey.
Exactly. So now you start thinking, okay, part time. I want to start looking into real estate. What's your first move?
Bro, okay, so I just start like looking, what can I do? And I see that people are either fixing and flipping houses or they have rental properties. It was one of the two, And I was like, well, I want checks right now. I want to fix and flip, but I do want rentals too. And I got discouraged because I was like, man, a house is a lot of money. And so I was like, and at the time, to be honest, Max, I had like $500, if that, saved, that I had access to. And my credit score was a 508.
Wow. So you're at the bottom of the map. At this point, were you still a teacher?
No, I was making about 60,000 or something.
Okay.
So I was starting, my salary was starting to come up, but I was, but my credit sucked. So I was like, man, I don't have any money and I don't have any credit. I can't invest in real estate. So I guess I'll just have to wait years until the credit my cash come up.
Yep.
But I kept searching.
That's cool. So now that you got the idea, you want to start flipping, you want to get some rentals. When did you acquire your first property and how did you get it?
Okay. So, like I said, I kept searching and then I found, wholesaling and creative real estate that I can get my foot in the door without money or credit. Seemed like a scam, looked like, yeah, right. But I've seen a lot of people do it. I think my first deal was a for sale by owner. I did everything wrong. I was supposed to profit like $16,000 on that deal. And the guy, I made $4,800. It was so bad that he didn't have to even cut me a check. He cut me a check outside of closing because I was no longer protected, like in the deal. Like I did it all wrong. So it was a for sale by owner. I called the guy. He had moved to another city and the house was vacant. And this guy was like in his 70s. He said, look, he wasn't hurting for money. He was like, we moved and it's a vacant house. We're looking to sell it. So he agreed to my purchase price. I called a realtor and told the realtor to put it on the MLS for me. The realtor was so confused, asked the broker. This is like 2014. Asked the broker, like, is this legal? She called the title company, like, he's not on title. Like, can you do this? So it was a mess.
Yeah. So what I guess what a lot of people are saying is that he didn't write the contract to protect himself. And when the end buyer was there, he didn't have to be on the HUD. So he never wrote the contract that he was in it. So he ended up, the guy was nice enough to cut you a check, basically. He didn't have to. But he still did.
No. Right. So, because he was actually a older guy and he invested, a lot in his youth. So he just, I guess he appreciated the hustle, Yeah. But so what really messed it up is the realtor was like, wait up, you're not on the deed. So when we write the contract, when we had a buyer, when we write the contract was between the seller and the buyer. It wasn't between me and the seller with an assignment, protecting my interest. So I went to the title company afterwards and was like, yeah, I'm here to pick up my check. And the escrow agents just looked at me like, what? So awkward, kind of like, basically like, who are you?
Wow. Interesting. That's
epic fail, bro.
That's crazy. So now you made your first $4,800 and you see it's real.
Right.
You see it's real. Now you just made 10% of your yearly salary in this messed up transaction. What's next? It
works, and I need to keep doing it. So at this time, I don't know. I think by this time, I just started getting better at saving, and I actually bought a rental property, all cash, free and clear. I came across a steal of a deal because, of course, I was still marketing, and another lead came up, but it was so cheap. I was like, I'm gonna buy it, and that was my first rental. I was like in 2014. I bought it free and clear and rented it out.
How much did you end up paying for that one?
Man, you don't want to know. I don't want to say that because you're getting too big now, man. People are gonna know where my marketing try to come here.
Well, here's the thing. That happened to me in my first year. I bought a property for $1,500.
Oh well, it wasn't that cheap.
Yeah, so I mean, $1,500.
$1,500 or
I bought the property for $1,500 and it was worth $50,000, right? And I was gonna keep it and rent it, and I ended up selling it for $18,000.
you gotta tell me how you got that deal. Well, you gotta tell me about the situation of the seller. What?
He had about 5 or 6 properties, and he was going through some foreclosure, but I lucked up on it. What happened was I ended up putting it under contract, and I negotiated the lien down, the mortgage, with a company that was under watch by the federal government. So there's a certain mortgage company, I think it's called Aquin Mortgage. Yeah. They weren't allowed to foreclose on any properties for a certain amount of time. So I negotiated a $40,000 loan to $1,000, and I gave the seller $500.
Sweet. Yeah, I took over a couple subject twos with Aquin being a lender.
They They couldn't foreclose. They weren't allowed to foreclose because of some deceptive trade practices they did, and the loss of their paperwork and stuff. But it's crazy. So now you're acquiring rental property. You flipped a house and you got a rental property. What are you cash flowing on it?
$900 a month. The taxes on the house. So anyway, the property, bought the property for $9,000.
Mm-hmm.
Needed about $3,000 worth of work. So all in $12,000, and the property's looking sweet. It's a 3-bed, 1-bath. Rented out for $900 a month.
You made your money back the first year.
Yeah.
And you still own this property?
100% return. Yeah. About 100% cash on cash return. Yeah, we still own that property.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Still own the property. It's mailbox money. That's like the only one I have like on HUD. So
Now tell me you've done your first flip, you've got your first rental property. How do you get to the point where you're doing now? You last year you did 100,000+, right? In real estate. How do you do that working a full-time job? I understand the one flip, I understand the one rental. How do you do that part-time?
Okay. Biggest thing is the mindset shift. So I told you the first like 2.5 years, it was just like, hey, I just want to make a little bit extra money. So it's kind of like the climate control. I make a deal happen, I cash a check, and then I chill. I might not even do anything in real estate or not even market for like a month and a half. I'm like, cool. Mm-hmm. So what happened is I just got consistent with marketing, I just kept marketing because I was like, if you take the fishing pole out the water, you can't catch fish.
Correct.
But I would just go eat my fish and then just go chill for a little while, and then probably like a month or 2 months later, I come fish again. But I just kept the
and
fishing
that's
pole.
Important. And that's very important. And guys, what he's telling you is, and that's
the fish will always bite.
Yeah, you got to be consistent, and I think that's what separates me from a lot of people in my market, and in business in general. I can remember when I started my YouTube channel, I had no traction. And then one day, one video went completely viral. And I went from 3,000 subscribers to 17,000 subscribers in a matter of 3 weeks. And now I'm sitting at around close to 20. And it's the same with my real estate company. We would put out 100 bandit signs every week. Some weeks, no calls, no calls, no calls. And then, boom, $30,000 in a week. And you're like, oh, my God. And it's the same with PPC. And the same with
it's that 10x philosophy right there.
Yeah, same with cold calling. It's no answer, no hold, leave me alone, and then a pipeline of deals coming from past calls that we did, a month or two ago. So consistency is key in life in general, and it's definitely the key in business. So I'm glad you mentioned that, and I think if anybody should take some things from this podcast, is definitely consistency in anything you do is what separates you from winners and losers.
Yeah, most people don't have staying power. They're just gonna do it for a little bit, but
yeah, because real estate
making more money, just being consistent with what I was doing.
So now you last year you made 100,000, but you still haven't told us how. What methods of real estate are you using? You flipping? You wholesaling? What are you doing?
So, all right. So, you know what is crazy? I never consider myself a wholesaler because I do like a myriad of like different strategies. My favorite strategy and a large component of that 100,000 plus that I made is subject to flipping it via owner finance. It's funny, some of the most seasoned investors don't even do subject to, and when you put those two together, they create big profits. So that's where a large percentage of that came from, and I mean, I just love it. I actually love subject to more than wholesale deals all day, no question. Personally.
So backing
that's
up.
That's kind of my niche.
So backing up, you're saying that you never considered yourself a wholesaler, and I like that mindset, because here's what I think a lot of people don't understand. At the end of the day, you're a real estate investor, okay? And you don't call somebody that owns commercial buildings a commercial builder, or you get what I'm saying? You don't call just a guy that owns rental property a rental propertyer, right? These are all just exit strategies in real estate investing, right? You don't call a guy that builds communities and sells them a community builder, right? He's a real estate investor, and there's different exit strategies and tools you can use in real estate. Yes, I run a wholesaling business. Many times I'll do different things with.
You fix and flip.
Correct.
I've seen fix and flip. I know you hold some property.
Correct. And we get to cherry pick. I think wholesaling is the root of all real estate investing, because it allows you to find a deal. And in order to be a true investor, you have to buy with cash flow and equity. That's the only way you build wealth. So why take away the opportunity to own the grocery store and the grocery supplier? You should always keep wholesaling. And that's why I tell people I will never let wholesaling go, no matter how big and how rich I get.
Because you getting it at the bottom. You getting it before everybody sees it. So, like, if you're a wholesaler and you come across a great deal, the property's even larger for you if you want to fix and flip it. Because usually a fix and flipper, it came through a wholesale and they've already attached the assignment fee on it.
Correct.
If they didn't get it from a realtor or a forecloser. So it's kind of like, man, you can create the largest spread as the wholesaler.
Correct.
And I mean, I like how you set the foundation, because it's usually like the quickest, like the liquidity, just in and out, in and out. And if you decide, hey, I want to cherry pick, oh, this would be a great rental, or wow, this would be a monster flip, you can do those too, because you're the wholesaler.
Now I think what's pretty impressive. How many subject to deals do you currently hold?
That I'm still holding?
Yeah.
10. So
you or a trust or somebody or some way in whatever you own, you're on the deed in 10 properties right now.
Yeah,
right?
So I'm in the chain of title, meaning if they default on our agreement, the property comes back to me and I can sell it again.
And at this point you are making cash flow with these properties?
So only one, because check this out. I love, maybe I'm too giving, but that's
what this podcast is about.
So most of the time, man, I'll just make the $10,000 to $20,000 upfront profit, and I keep the mortgage the same. So I don't do a wrap. I don't wrap around a mortgage. You familiar with wraps?
Absolutely.
So usually when someone owner finance, especially investors, they owner finance, you're gonna see minimum. I don't know about your market, 10% down, 10% interest rate, and blah blah blah. Well, if I take over a property subject to and it has a 3.5% interest rate, guess what? I usually owner finance it and let them keep a 3.5 interest rate. But I made $20,000 up front.
Okay.
Now, if I'm feeling like, hey, I want to make a little bit more, like that one property that I decided to do that on, is I'll get the $20,000 profit up front, and then I'll wrap around a second mortgage. The title company handles that for me to adjust it so their mortgage payment is more than the actual mortgage payment of the loan I took over.
So that's usually because it's more because there's a lot of equity involved in that one.
Yeah, or they just got to sweep the rate, the rent rate, or what someone would usually pay for that monthly is more than what the note is. And it's like, hey,
Okay.
If it's a house that someone usually will pay $1,200 a month but I took it over and the note is $900. It's kind of like, man, wrap that note so it's $1,200.
Makes sense.
And now you make $20K up front, and now you're making $300 a month.
So equity and cash flow.
Exactly, off of one deal.
So I'm actually diving into subject to, and I think last year I probably passed up on a dozen subject to properties because
everybody does. That's why I love it, and that's why it's dope I think that's what helps being full time, because yes, it can be competitive, especially in a lot of markets. But why it's important to note many exit strategies or have many tools is because subject twos are usually the deals that people pass up on.
Correct.
Because if you're a wholesaler or you're a fix and flipper, if a property, let's say someone owes $100,000, right?
Yeah.
And the property is worth $100,000 and they owe $98,000 on it. Are you gonna fix and flip it?
You can't do anything with that.
Are you gonna wholesale it?
They're gonna think about short selling it.
They're gonna think about short selling it. That's $20,000. If all I need is a seller that is flexible and they're willing to take my offer and let me help them with a subject to. And so why I love it, and it really works with part-time, because a lot of these sellers, they just get looked over. People just walk past them and they can't help them.
So how do
Even
you
for selling retail, if you owe $98,000, is worth $100,000, you don't even have 6% to pay the realtor. You come out of pocket.
Correct. So you said you can take a deal with that thin of a margin and make money off of it.
Easy, and I'm gonna tell you why, and you can understand this. The thing is, Max, that when you own or finance a property, when people are buying a property, owner finance, they usually sell for about 10 to 20% more, and it's going to be one or two ways. Either that's why they have the investor charges 10% interest, and they make that much more over time, or you can charge it where the down payment is what you get, and you like 120. So a house is worth 120. I mean, a house is worth $100,000. Someone would easily pay 120 for it, like in my market, if you're gonna own or finance it for them.
So
because
you're
the bank
saying,
will touch them and they have money.
So you're saying they got the $20,000 up front. They're going to pay more for the property, but instead of paying it in payments, you just take it up front, and then they essentially just replacing the mortgage because somebody else.
That's my favorite type of deal. And if the payments were so low that I took over, I'll wrap a second mortgage around, and so I'm cash flowing as well. And you got to think about it. If there's only 15 years on that mortgage I took over, and you did it for 30. When that mortgage is paid off, the payments is going directly to you. Mm-hmm. Like it's just crazy, crazy type of deals, man.
So, tell me about your last deal. Tell me how you found it, from what marketing piece, and what marketing.
Okay.
Tell me. So tell me from what marketing you found it. what type of deal it was, what type of money you made, and the whole thing, because I think that's important, and I think that's the thing we should share. Tell me about your last deal.
Okay. My last deal is gonna confuse you because it was super creative. So I'm probably confused myself trying to regurgitate. But my last deal, I'm pretty sure it was a bandit sign. I'm pretty sure. Okay.
Okay, so bandit sign.
Bandit sign. All right. So the lady was past due on her taxes about $8,000.
Okay.
Okay. She knew that the property was probably going to go to the tax sale and she wasn't going to get anything. Mm-hmm. She agreed to basically take like $2,000, you know what I mean? Because that was better than nothing, right? Then I owner financed it, I think for like 18 or 20,000, where the guy came and he put $10,000 down. So I owner financed for like 20 or 18. He put $10,000 down, right? And I went to the tax office and set up a payment plan, and they told me, hey, as long as this year is current, within a year, it's not going to go into foreclosure.
Okay.
And so we set it up with the real estate attorney that the $8,000, because owner financed it. It was a 1-year term. So I made the $10,000 profit up front, and I just let him make the payments to the thing.
Got it.
And so if he doesn't pay it, I can pay it and I get the house back. If he defaults on his owner finance, or if I don't want the house, so
you just let it go.
Yeah. So
interesting. So on that bandit sign, did it go to voicemail or did you answer it live?
Probably live. Yeah, live.
Okay.
I think live. Yeah.
Okay. So before we wrap this up, tell me your
my deal before that was better, man.
So all right.
I'm confused. Let me give him another deal.
Tell me about your deal before that then.
All right. Bandit sign.
Answered it live or
no. I called him back. I called him back immediately. You gotta call back immediately. But flooded house. But they had insurance. So, they compensated with insurance. So they just wanted to liquidate the property and take whatever they could get with the property. I already got their insurance check and move along.
Mm-hmm.
Bought the house for $40,000, immediately sold it for $70,000.
$30,000 wholesale deal.
It was gutted. Nothing was in it. Didn't touch it.
So drywall is gone and
completely gutted. And a pastor of a church bought it. They had like a grant program or whatever, and they bought it. And it still is a super deal because they own all their rehab. They got their guys, their contractors and stuff. So yeah, it was still like a.
That's crazy. I've never heard of a church in the rehab business.
Yeah, so they had a grant to provide people in the congregation with houses.
Okay.
And so they put them in a house with a little equity, and they have to stay there for at least 5 years, like that. So they had a waiting list, and because this Harvey kind of hit our area, they were taking advantage of that because new construction was slow.
Okay. Well, Brian, tell us before we wrap this up, tell us 2 of your top marketing strategies right now. Yeah, I got to give out the gold, man. I got to give out the gold. Tell me your 2 favorite marketing strategies right now that you like.
2 favorite marketing strategies. I'm glad y'all can't see my board. I would say, man, the tried and true signs, man, they work.
I like them too.
Yeah, they don't work in everybody's market because some people's code, they're strict. It depends where you're at. Some markets is really competitive. Some markets is cutthroat. The city officials are really strict. But in my market, I like bandit signs, and I also like driving for dollars. I really like it.
So two very
strategy
cheap methods. Two very cheap methods.
Very cheap methods. And one of my strategies for driving for dollars, I'm sure most people are familiar, you find the house that appears to be vacant, either do a skip trace or find their mailing address, reach out to them via phone or mail. Mm-hmm. What I like to do in addition to that is, man, when I see a house that looks like it's vacant or it looks like it could be for sale, you know what a lot of people don't do, Max? Knock on the doors next to them. Ask the neighbors. Neighbors know everything.
They do know everything. You're right.
Bro, they know everything. Look, hey, you know who owns this house? People don't do that,
They'll tell you their name, their cousin's name, the phone number to call them on, the whole nine. Well, look, Brian, it was great speaking to you. I know you're out there giving information because you are in the Facebook group Wholesaling Houses Elite. Tell people where they can find you at and, where they can reach out to you.
Okay, so I am most active on Instagram. Mm-hmm. That's my platform of choice. My IG stories, I give away crazy information. I mean, Max, you see it sometimes. Like, I give away gold. House buying Brian.
So house
buying Brian with the I. House buying Brian. House buying Brian.
And then you also got a YouTube channel where you use that whiteboard behind you and you start breaking down deals. So tell us what your YouTube channel is.
My name, Brian, Brian, Iregbu, Iregbu, Iregbu. And if you go on YouTube, Max is gonna have a link for it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Yep. So if you're listening to this on YouTube or you're actually listening to this on the iTunes, I'm going to leave some stuff below so you can reach out to Brian, follow him on Instagram and YouTube. He's got some great information, guys. And I'm glad to bring you back. The podcast is relaunching. Everything is awesome. I'm glad you were the first guest on. We're going to do this every week, couple times a week. And look, man, I look forward to hearing more success stories from you. And folks, go out and follow Brian for sure. Any parting words from the people?
From me? Man, look, if you want to be in this game, just like Max said, just be consistent, Be consistent, be honest and really help people. Believe it or not, man, when you genuine, man, like it works for people. I tell people all the time, Max, so many times I've offered less than another investor and the seller took my offer.
I do it a lot. I get that a lot.
It's crazy, Sometimes it's not all about money. So if you can connect with sellers and build rapport, I think you'll make a lot of money. So consistency with your marketing and also learning to build rapport with sellers and not going in there with that shark mentality,
Yeah.
See how you can help them. That's how you can make money.
Absolutely. Brian, I appreciate you once again. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to join our Facebook group, Wholesaling Houses Elite. Follow me on Instagram at @TheRealMaxwell. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel at just search Maxwell and you can find me. Once again, I'll see you guys next week, next time, next podcast. This is Maxwell, and you guys have a great day. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Wholesaling Houses Elite podcast with Maxwell. Make sure to tune in next week to see what elite wholesaler will have in the hot seat.